ABC 的信心。
But his faith was a faith of ABC.
是个冒险的信心，
Faith to take some risk.
是个简单的信心。
A very simple faith.
但是对这一个大臣来说，
But to this high official,
请听啊，
please listen carefully.
耶稣是他最后的决心。
Jesus was his very last hope.
也许耶稣这一位上他所听见的是他儿子生命的最后一根草。
But maybe that's the last straw that his son could grasp on for his life.
你说对不对呢？
Isn't
你说
that
对不对
correct?
呢？人家怎么说？
Regardless of what other people say.
有人说耶稣行了很多神迹，
People said that Jesus performed a lot of miracles.
也有很多人说这是完全是无稽之谈啊。
Or other people say, well, that's unbelievable.
但是我对我这个大臣说，不管是无稽之谈也好，不管你这样说，耶稣在我的心目当中，现在是一个唯一的希望。
But for this royal official, regardless of what other people say, this is his only hope.
他在他的心目当中，耶稣能不能医治他儿子，他不在乎。
And he was not even concerned about whether or not Jesus could heal his son.
耶稣肯不肯到我家里来医治我的儿子，我也不在乎。
He was not concerned as to whether Jesus was willing to go to his home to heal his son.
耶稣到我家里来，能不能使我的孩子复活？这个病好治，我也不在乎。
And even when Jesus would come to his home, whether Jesus could cure his son, he was not concerned.
但我做父亲的责任，我必须要行使。
But to fulfill my responsibilities as a father, I must go and meet Jesus.
我记得我先父他怎么信主的呢？
I know how my late father believed in the Lord.
我先父是在日本这个住了差不多有14年的时间。
He lived for 14 years in Japan.
我是生在日本的，所以有人说我很像日本人。
I was born in Japan and might even look like a German.
因为我第一口水就喝日本水。
Because the first glass of water I drank was water from Japan.
当我父亲从日本回去的时候，他忽然之间得了一个病，什么病呢？就是头痛病。
When my father returned from Japan to China, he got an illness. He's got a lot of headache.
所谓头痛病呢，他这个头痛呢，这是很可怕的。
But a horrible headache.
那回去的时候，一年发生一次。
And it would happen once a year.
一次头痛的时候，他要12个小时，一直痛，一直痛，一直痛。
And the headache would last continuously for 12 hours.
后来一年一次，就慢慢的就到1年2次了。
And then the illness progressed, and he would have the headache twice a year.
后来到1个月1次了。
And then once a month.
你知道我们做子女的，一听见我父亲在前面的房间里头喊叫的时候，我们这一天就不好过。
And when we as children heard our father grunting in his room, we feel the day was really bad.
那么我们在那里听听，
So we tried it again.
那么最后呢，我们就在拔他的头发，我们敲他的腿。
And we'll pull his hair and try to massage his leg.
我父母我不晓得请了多少医生，拜了多少的菩萨。
And they have worshipped a lot of idols and a lot of God.
为了要救我的父亲，甚至把我跟我的哥哥过放给观世音菩萨做干儿子。
And in order to have my father's illness cured, he would let me and my brother to be the son of the Buddha.
后来是1个月，不就是1个月制，就是1个礼拜来一次的。
And now later the illness progressed that they had to go once a week.
3天2次。
And then finally,
你
2 headaches in 3 days.
你可以想象到，我们家里是充满了黑暗痛苦。
So you could imagine how sad our family was.
那个时候我父亲只有38岁，
And my late father was then 38 years old.
我只有8岁的时候，
And I was 8.
8、9岁，就眼看见 我父亲就这样子要失手离开世界。
And then I have to see that my father leaving the world like that.
就这回事。
But right at that time,
我父亲有个堂嫂，
he's got the wife of his cousin.
那我父亲的堂嫂有一次，就是我父亲最厉害的时候，就到我们家里来。
When my father was experiencing his most severe headache, she came.
他对我父亲、对我母亲说什么呢？他说，在这个时候，只有耶稣可以医他。
She told my mother that at this time only Jesus could cure.
我父亲、母亲从来没听见过耶稣啊。
They've never heard of Jesus before.
但是就在那个时候，我叫他堂婆婆了，是啊，他就说，只有耶稣能够医治他，你们赶快信耶稣啊！
But she kept saying that only Jesus could cure him. Believe in Jesus.
那个时候我母亲说 no 都不行啊，
So my mother could not even refuse.
因为这个堂嫂她信得很虔诚，而且她说只有耶稣能够医治她。
Because she said that only Jesus could cure.
然后问我母亲说：“你愿不愿意信耶稣啊？”
And then she asked my mother, "Are you willing to believe in
要
Jesus?"
不要请这个教会的人为你献上祷告，让耶稣来医治他？你说这个话听了好不好啊？你说啊？
I'll get the people in our church to pray for him and have Jesus cure him. It's just fun.
这是一根稻草啊！
So that's a straw.
人在这个水里面快要淹死的时候，一根稻草，他就什么就抓了。
When you're about to drown in the great ocean, you would even grasp onto a straw.
我告诉各位，我不信主本人的，我不信主本人的。
I tell you that I cannot refuse to believe in Jesus.
为什么？
Why?
我母亲到这个程度，就对我父亲说，我父亲说啊，好啊，不是说他不晓得他到底讲什么。
My father was grunting and she did not even knew what my father was.
所以这个他差不多40几岁的一个我的师弟，我叫他是他去了就请好多教会的老先生老太太来了。
So this lady was about in his 40s, invited a lot of elderly people from the church.
这一幅图画历历在目，我永远不会忘记。
And I could still remember the scene vividly.
他们就跪在地上，为我父亲哇啦哇啦哇啦就讲起话来了。
So they all knelt in front of my father and then started to pray.
我才知道这个大概是有一点灵恩派的。
Maybe that's part of the charismatic.
因为每一个人大家都哇啦哇啦大声叫啊。
So all of them were young.
你信不信？我告诉你，我到今天可以告诉你，在人看起来这是不可能的事情。
So I can tell you that from a man's perspective, it is something that's impossible.
就是经过这样一个祷告，很奇妙，我的父亲慢慢就好起来。
But miraculously, after this prayer, my father started
那
to
不
get
是说
better.
好了以后没有头痛过，我没有这样说啊。
I'm not saying that the headache never reoccurred.
但是也有头痛过，不过不是3天2次，那是以后1个月1次，半年1次。
But the frequency got slower and slower.
然后我父亲母亲，他是在那个时候真正信的耶稣。
And then my parents then believed in Jesus.
我看见了，你说我信不信啊？
Could I not believe?
看见了，好像信了，但是到了台湾以后，我一定不信。
But when I returned to Taiwan, I did not
亲爱
believe
的弟
again.
兄姐妹们，这个大臣他抓到这个稻草会不会放啊？
So the high officials, when they grasped onto the straw, well, they let it go.
这是唯一的机会
That's
哦。
the only opportunity.
这是对他们对这个大臣来说，他儿子如果要病得到医治的话，唯一的希望。
And that's the only hope to have his son cured.
所以他来了，他来抱着一个求耶稣，他把家里去医病的一个态度。
With an attitude to beg Jesus to come to his home to cure his son.
那弟兄姐妹们，
So brothers and sisters,
你说这个信心是不是 ABC 的信心？
so is it not an ABC type of faith?
这不过是听了人家讲了，所以他就去了。
he's heard of what other people have said, and then he went.
但是我觉得这何等的重要！
But I found that is so important.
那多少的人信耶稣也是听人先讲的嘛，对不对？
And a lot of believers, they believe in Jesus because they have heard what other people
哎呀，
say.
小先生的信耶稣真好啊！
So it's so good to believe in Jesus.
哎呀，我从前是个坏蛋，现在变成好蛋了。
I was such a bad person, and now I'm such a good person.
那你想嘛，当这个人听见我讲了以后，耶稣那么好，所以呢，就去啊，他就来了。
So when they've heard that Jesus is so good, as I've spoken, so I said, well, let's go, and he would go.
所以你可以看见这个人的观念不同，
So you can see that a person's thinking is
他
different.
还是地上的观念，
His thinking was the worldly.
这个大臣的观念还是人的观念。
So the thinking of these high officials was like everybody else.
他到耶稣那里怎么说？
So what did he say when he arrived?
求耶稣到他家里去。
They begged Jesus to come to my home.
他也不知道耶稣还要走20里路到他家里去。
And didn't realize that Jesus got to walk another 20 miles to go back to his home.
他也不知道他到了家里去的儿子是不是已经死掉了。
And did not realize whether after walking 20 miles when Jesus arrived, maybe his son is dead.
他也不知道，如果他真去了到他家里，耶稣能不能医治啊？
And he did not know whether indeed Jesus could cure his son after
在
arriving.
他的观念当中，只要他到我家里，
But he firmly believed that if Jesus would come to my home.
你看，这是我们很多的人呢，就是把耶稣下指到这样子的小小。
So just like a lot of us, we have limited Jesus to a very small space.
只有到家里去才能够医治。
He's got to come to my home, then he might be able to do it.
但是耶稣怎么说？
What did Jesus
你
say?
回去吧，
You go back.
你的儿子活了。
Your son will live.
弟兄姐妹，你可以看见耶稣在这里告诉他，我不必去。
So Jesus is here telling him that I need not go.
我讲一句话，
Just by one statement,
你的儿子就好了。
and your son will be cured.
那弟兄姐妹们，当他来到耶稣那里，
So brothers, this is when he arrived in front of Jesus.
圣经告诉我们说，他说：“先生啊，请你到我家里去，我的儿子快要死了
He。said, Sir, please come to my home. My son is about to die.
你是我唯一的盼望，
You are my only hope.
你是我唯一的机会，
You are my only
你是
opportunity.
我唯一的逃操。
And you are my only piece of straw.
没有你，我的儿子不行啊。”
Otherwise, my son will die.
圣经告诉我们说，这个父亲求耶稣，这个求耶稣是继续不断的在那恳求。
So the Bible told us that when this man was begging on Jesus, it was a persistent begging.
你说人讲介绍耶稣给他好不好？
So I would say that it is good that people introduce Jesus
他
to him.
所以到耶稣那里去，那是因为人家介绍，对不对？
He went to Jesus because of other people's recommendation.
好不好？大家说好不好？对不对？
Wasn't that right?
那你为什么不请人来？
Then how come you don't invite other people to
今
come?
天很多人需要你介绍，也就要介绍他到教会里来。
A lot of people need your invitation to them to come to
你
the
说
church.
对不对？你我今天信耶稣都是人家带的。
Isn't that correct? Because we all believe in Jesus because we
如果
brought
我
him
的
as
朋
people.
友王牧师不带我到教会去，我根本不信耶
If
稣。
my friend Pastor Wong never brought me to the church, I would have never
你
believed
想
in
一
Jesus.
想看，你怎么信耶稣了？
You think about how you believe
我
in
们
Jesus.
长话短说
And then let's just summarize.
然后就到了耶稣那里。
And then he arrived in front of Jesus.
那耶稣就说了，
And then Jesus
请我
said,
们大家一起看，这上去吧第48节我们的不是这个我们看第47节
verse 47.
他听见耶稣从加利利从犹大到了加利利，就来见他，求他下去医治他的儿子。这个求字是 continuously insistently 这个求字
So verse 47, he came and begged Jesus, persistently begging Jesus to go and heal his
他
son.
这样子求，因为他的儿子快要死了。
Because his son was about to die.
耶稣就对他说
And Jesus said to him,
他说如果看见神迹，你们总是不信的。
unless you people see some miracles, you will never believe.
这好像似乎是耶稣开始